The family riding mower quit halfway through the back lot, and the shop in town wants $140 just to look at it. Under a drop light clipped to a rafter, on a barn floor, you're 16. So you pull the fouled plug yourself and clean it. The engine catches on the second try. Nobody writes a check. 25 years later, a man who started exactly there sells the company he built for $99.7 million. Between those two moments sits a trade that needs 971,000 new technicians by 2028. That number comes from the TechForce Foundation. Everything after the mower is the same trick on bigger machines. Machines that cost a contractor thousands of dollars a day when they sit still. The wage for fixing them has a ceiling. The value of fixing them does not. This is every level of a heavy equipment mechanic in America, and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The barn floor. You're 16 and nobody is paying you because this is the tier before anybody does. The riding mower quit halfway through the back lot, and the shop in town wants $140 just to look at it. So it comes to you instead on a gravel floor, under a drop light clipped to a rafter. You pull the spark plug with a socket out of a Craftsman set and hold it up to the light. It's black. Fouled, coated so thick it can't throw a spark. You wire brush it, gap it by feel, and thread it back in, which is the wrong way to do all three. The engine still won't catch. So you pull the carburetor bowl and hose it out with carb cleaner until the jet runs clear and the gas comes through clean. It catches on the second pull and the barn fills with blue smoke. That's the entire trade in miniature. Diagnose, take it apart, fix it, put it back, test it. Then you keep going because the machine is already open. Oil out into a drain pan, filter spun off, fresh oil in. Grease into the deck spindles until it squeezes past the seal. You pull the deck, take the blade to the bench grinder and put a real edge on it. Then you bolt it back on, upside down. The mower chews the grass instead of cutting it, and you drop the deck a second time to flip it. Gasoline in the air and cut grass under your boots. The pull start kicks back against your palm, hard, and you learn to hold the rope loose. You stop asking which socket to use. You cut one strip down the middle of the lawn, straight and even, and the blade runs quiet the whole way. Then, the barn goes quiet again. You hand the keys back to a parent who never wrote the check. Nobody pays you for any of it, but you've done for free the exact job a shop bills at $140. You know now what that hour was worth. The next machine you put your hands on weighs 40 tons. Somebody will hand you a check to wash a machine worth more than the house you grew up in. Level 2 is the washbay, and the washbay pays. Level 2, the washbay. You're 17, and the check says $16 an hour, 6 in the morning at a rental yard, and the excavators come back caked to the belly pans with a week of clay. You walk one onto the wash pad and open up the pressure washer until the mud lets go in sheets. In January, the spray comes back off the boom and soaks both sleeves before you finish the undercarriage. Then it goes up on the lube rack. You read the work order across the top. PM service, engine oil, fuel filter, hydraulic filter, grease every point. You miss one zerk on the pin at the base of the stick. An old hand walks over from the next bay, wipes the fitting with his thumb, and shows you the dry joint that would have cooked a bushing by Friday. You drop the oil hot so it runs clean. You spin the filters off with a filter wrench. You pump grease from the bulk pump until the gray comes out the other side. You log the hour meter on the work order, park the machine and tag it complete. The machine you just washed is worth $350,000. You make $16 an hour. The shop in town still charges $140 for a mower tune-up, and you haven't paid that bill since you were 16. Diesel gets into everything. It's in the seams of your jeans and your boots in the truck, and it does not wash out on the first cycle or the fourth. David Alligood came up this way, a fleet technician for Manatee County in Florida, named Technician of the Year in 2020 by the Equipment Managers Association. He was raised by a welder in a shop behind the house, and the rule there was simple. If we owned it, we fixed it. You cashed the first check on a Friday at the drive-through window of a bank on the highway. The foreman starts calling you by your name instead of pointing. You start reading the hour meter before anyone asks for it. Then the yard goes quiet, and the lights over the bays tick as they cool. There's a laptop in the corner office that plugs into these machines and tells you what's wrong with them in about 90 seconds. You are not allowed to touch it yet. Level 3 is how you get the laptop. Level 3. The apprentice. You're 19, and the dealer is paying you $23 an hour to go to school. The Caterpillar program runs 8 weeks in a classroom, then 8 weeks in the dealer's shop. It repeats until there's an associate degree and a job at the end of it. It is a paid on-ramp, and it skips the years of unpaid dues the men around you all served. The first thing they teach you isn't a repair. It's OSHA 1910.147, the lockout and tagout rule, final in 1989. It says you kill the energy in a machine before you put your body inside it. You lower the blade to the ground, cycle the levers to bleed the hydraulics, pull the disconnect, and hang your own lock on it. Nobody else's key fits that lock, which is the entire point of it. Then you split a dozer in half. You crack it at the joint, walk the halves apart with a floor jack, and pull the clutch pack out in the open air. You learn the words as you go. Final drive, track sag, pin and bushing, splitting the machine. Your first roller cabinet is a snap-on, financed over 3 years, and it costs more than the car sitting in the lot outside. The undercarriage is where they test you. The track comes off and goes on the press. You push pins and bushings out one at a time so the worn faces can be turned and run again. The press is slow, and then it isn't. A pin lets go with a concussion you feel in your sternum, and the chain jumps hard on the table. You put the second one in crooked. The press pushes it half an inch and stalls out, and the shop goes quiet enough that 4 people look over from the parts counter. A journeyman crosses the floor without hurrying, backs the ram off and squares the chain in the fixture, and doesn't say anything about it until lunch. Then he says the pin never was the problem, and that you were fighting the setup instead. You do the other side clean. You torque the undercarriage bolts to the decal spec with a torque wrench and a multiplier. The man catches you pulling one dry when the spec calls for oil on the threads. Dry threads read as tight when they aren't. You break it loose, oil it, and pull it again, and it turns a quarter turn further than it did the first time. That quarter turn is the whole lesson. You stop flinching when the pin lets go. Grease works under the nails, and gear oil sits on the tongue when you breathe through your mouth. Then the shop is just a shop again. Jason Connel came up through this side of the trade and won John Deere's Territory Level Technician of the Year. That award goes to a person who fixes things right the first time in front of a customer who is standing there counting the minutes. You pass. Somebody hands you a diploma that says Associate of Applied Science, and the dealer hands you a badge and a bay. The pay scale on the other side of that badge is public. It stops climbing at a number you can already see from here. Level 4 is where you find the ceiling. Level 4. The journeyman. You're 26, and the median for this job is $62,740 a year. The wrench work hasn't gone away, but the money job now is the laptop. An excavator comes in on a lowboy with no power and a fault the operator can't describe past it quit. You plug in the service laptop, pull the whole fault history, and read the codes back through the wiring schematic. It's in a D rate, which means the computer has cut the engine's power on purpose to force the machine into a shop. You force a regen to burn the filter clean and clear the code, and it comes back inside 4 minutes, so it isn't the filter at all. You chase the circuit with a digital multimeter, terminal by terminal, and find a ground strap behind the cab corroded to green powder. $8 of hardware sitting in a bin, and 2 hours of a man who knows where to look. You wire brush it back to bright copper, load it with dielectric grease, torque it down, and the machine starts and holds. You flash the ECM with the current software, function test the boom through full travel, and close the work order out on the terminal. Then you read the invoice on the way past the counter. The shop bills your time at $155 an hour. You take home about $30 of it. You stop reading the labor line on the invoice after that. The certifications are the only lever you control, so you take them. The ASE Medium and Heavy Truck Series is 8 tests, and T2 through T8 makes you a master technician, retested every 5 years whether you've forgotten anything or not. Kyle Hildebrand won AGCO's North American Technician of the Year in 2025 on a sprayer he had never seen before. He said afterward that the competition was definitely not easy. Nobody wins one of those on strength alone. You rebuild a hydraulic pump on the bench with a hydraulic ram and a seal kit, and it holds pressure on the first test. A contractor stands at the bay door the whole time because the machine is on the clock. Then the bay door comes down. There's a truck in the back lot on air suspension, with a crane on it and one man's name on the door, and that man doesn't stand in a bay waiting for parts to come off a shelf. Level 5 is the truck, and the truck goes to the machine. Level 5. The field technician. You're 3-3, And with the overtime the field pays, you clear over $100,000. The truck is a Knapheide body, with a service crane bolted on the back, an onboard air compressor, a welder, and every socket you own bolted down so it doesn't walk on the highway. The call comes at dawn on a Tuesday. An excavator is down on a pad with a crew of 11 standing around it. You drive out, walk it, and find hydraulic oil sprayed 20 feet across the mud from a burst hose at the boom base. Lock it out first, before anything else. Blade down, levers cycled, disconnect pulled, your lock on it, because the crew wants it running, and the crew is not the one standing under the boom when it drops. You measure the failed hose, cut new line off the reel, and crimp both ends on the truck. Then you run it back through the clamps the way the factory routed it, every clip in place. You top off the reservoir, cycle the boom slow through full travel, and watch every fitting for weep in the low sun. The foreman gets his machine back before the concrete truck shows up. That excavator costs him $3,000 to $8,000 a day when it's parked on that pad. You bill him for a trip charge and 4 hours. The math on that gap is the entire reason the next rung exists. Every field mechanic works it out alone, in a truck, in the rain, at some point in their 30s. The shortage is your leverage, and it is measured. The AED Foundation and the College of William and Mary surveyed 131 dealer members and counted 9,000 to 14,700 equipment technician jobs going unfilled every single year. You can name terms now, and they know it. Stephen Cox did the same work out of the oil field, and then he filmed it. He is a mobile heavy equipment mechanic from the oil patch who built a 6-figure audience on YouTube, and he stood in a compressor manufacturer's booth at the industry's biggest show as a partner, not a customer. Mud, diesel, and cold rain before sunrise. The 5 in the morning alarm doesn't wake you anymore, because you wake before it and the truck is already loaded. Then, the pad is quiet, and the machine idles behind you. The truck you drive belongs to somebody else, and so do the 4 hours you just billed to that foreman. Level 6 is when the truck is yours. Level 6. The owner. You're 41, and the name on the door of the shop is yours. You set the shop rate at $155 an hour. And now that number sits on your side of the ledger instead of somebody else's balance sheet. You quote the jobs, you hire the technicians, you carry the insurance every year, and you chase the receivables that 30-day contractors treat as a suggestion. The work is contracts, not repairs. Fleet agreements that pay every month, whether anything breaks that month or not. Ron and Connie Perry started a mobile fleet service company in Venice, Florida in 1997 and sold it to Ryder in 2024. Handing over about $24 million a year in revenue. Greg Hewlett started with a used pickup in 1986, called himself a diesel mechanic by trade, and built a company worth millions out of engine work on oil rigs. Nobody in that sentence got rich turning wrenches faster. They got rich owning the hours. Then a consolidator calls, one of the national chains buying founder-run diesel shops the way a fleet buys trucks off a lot. Tyler Robertson took the call. He had started a diagnostic tools and training company out of a garage in South Carolina with $1,000 of his own money, and Snap-on bought it for $99.7 million, closing on June 8, 2026. $1,000 went in, $99.7 million came out. He described it plainly afterward. The company he started with $1,000 had been acquired by Snap-on outright. It didn't sell as a bench repair shop. It sold as knowledge instead of labor. Laptops, software and training, the thing that separated you from the washbay at 17, packaged and priced. You stop keeping a toolbox in your own truck. Then the phone stops ringing for the day. Every level below you is still paid by the hour, and one of them is about to figure out what you figured out. Final beat. The trade tells you the ladder is about skill. It isn't. It's about who owns the uptime. A downed excavator costs a contractor thousands of dollars a day, and every rung of this climb is just a bigger claim on that same number. The washbay kid touches none of it. The field tech bills 4 hours of it. The owner keeps a piece of every hour his people work. The wage ceiling in this trade is real and published. The top 10% of heavy equipment technicians clear more than $89,920 a year. The ownership ceiling isn't published because there isn't one. Your knuckles don't close all the way in the cold anymore, and you'd trade nothing to get them back. The shop opens at 6 in the morning. In the third bay there's a kid, 19 in the dealer program, and you're paying him $23 an hour to learn what took you a decade. He's turning pins on a press, and he flinched the first time one let go. He won't be flinching by spring. On the counter out front is a work order for a riding mower tune-up, $140, dropped off by a customer who could have done it himself in a barn on a Saturday. You could do that job blindfolded. You don't have to do it anymore. There's another mower in the corner of your own shop, on jack stands. Deck off, blade waiting on the bench. Nobody scheduled it. Nobody is charging anybody. It's yours, and you pulled it in on a Saturday because the shop is quiet and your hands still know the sequence. Plug out, gap set, carb bowl clean, oil in the pan, edge on the blade. Then it's quiet again. 25 years ago, the same machine was a bill you couldn't pay. You pull the starter cord one more time, it catches on the first pull, and you hang the keys on the hook by the door of a building with your name over it.